So you're a big fan of the Book of Thomas. So when did you fall into that, and was it immediately that you just opened your mind to it?
What a good question to begin on, because I'm not sure that I've even really processed the depth of my relationship with the Gospel of Thomas. You can listen to certain, what's his name, Munter. I think his name is John Munter. If you listen to some of his interviews on Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio, uh, it's a similar thing where he was going through this spiritual awakening, where he was at a friend's house on New Year's and he picked up the Gospel of Thomas, and all of a sudden, instantly, all of the transcendental wisdom that's contained in this book, he understood it. So the Gospel of Thomas is very, some of it is anathema to what we think of the consciousness of Christ, or the meaning of Christ as being an embodiment of. But it's also interesting to wrestle with those paradoxes. And I think, spirituality itself is riddled with paradoxes. And I think being able to hold both ends of a paradox in your mind, because it's not the mind that matters in spirituality. Being able to wrestle with both ends of a paradox is I would say, I don't like making these kinds of statements, but I would say that it's necessary. I would say that as we move into what you might call a more Aquarian age, or more of a what Charles Fort would call the dominant of wider inclusions. However you frame this millenarian idea of what's going to be happening to us over the next 2,400 years, say, my initial, early 20s, so like 21, 22, and I'm 30. Sort of the initial cracking open of the pineal gland and the third eye and the new agey metaphysics. We're talking about the internet in 2012, right? By the time the solstice on 2021 hit, I was tripping balls. And for me, there's always been this underlying fascination with the history of early Christianity. Gospel of Thomas is just really, really, really special. And I have some remarkably heretical ideas about the importance of the Gospel of Thomas. I love it. I love talking about it. And I love talking about Christendom, and the kind of the elephant in the room, I think, is actually Christ. And it's buzzing, man, and it's on everybody's mind. What is this? What's happening? I like to say that the second coming doesn't look like what we thought it was going to look like.
We're in mass. We're all one. We're here already. It's already happening. That's what's so crazy. Everyone's waiting for the Messiah to come, and we're like, dude, we're here. Like, we're talking to you right now. This is, if you're into this type of stuff, then you're part of the second coming, and you're already here. And that's what's so beautiful about it is, I wanted to hit on some of those things. The paradox, to me, I love paradox. To me, that's 0 point. That's harmony. And to me, what a paradox is if you can hold a paradox in your mind and accept both ends, to me, that's enlightenment. And that's the start of your ascension. To me, to be able to accept a paradox is the beginning, to me, is the beginning of the ascension. It's the beginning of us being able to finally let go of all of our egoic ideals and all of our egoic beliefs and all these things that we hang our identity on. And it allows us to put these things in front of us and go, that's not what I believe, but I see the validity in it. And as soon as that mind opens to that level, everything just takes off. And so you're saying at 2021 is when you took off with that, when a lot of us, like myself, went further into a bottle, went further into that darkness, went further into numbing myself. But it's funny because it's like you said, I believe we're multidimensional beings. I know we're multidimensional beings. And you had a part of you that continued to do your schooling. And it was as if a part of me lived a polarized, positive life while I was the one partying and decaying and making all these choices in the human ego. And it's like, because what I have now, like my ability to understand spiritual texts and all these major concepts, it's only less than a year old for me. You know what I'm saying? But it's like my whole life has been working me up to get to the point of being able to comprehend this stuff. But I didn't have a reference beforehand because I was all personal. It was all ego.
Yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot there to unpack. It is happening. It's all happening simultaneously. And so we've all changed in the past year. We've all changed in the past couple months. We're always, change is the constant, right? And there's this thing that I was thinking about, knowing we were going to do this today. You know, star seeds have been this plant, the plant man, the plant by the name of man and how it grows. We star seeds have been silently, at least amongst ourselves, you know, kind of like growing and growing and growing. And what's happening is the blossoming, the flowering. And I guess in this metaphor, if we want to extend this metaphor, we're somehow both the plants, like the star plants that are star blossoming, but we're also somehow, there's something about the attraction of the pollinators, which are also us, you know. And so as we blossom, there's actually this coming together.
I know.
It's like that, it's happening. There's nothing. Yeah.
Dude. So me and my friend Jules Rose, we've done 4 of these now, and I invite anybody to come on this show and have a conversation with me, because if you're in about this life, then you're a part of it. Like there's no experts, there's no, you know what I mean? I just find people who have something to say and who have a story and they want to come on and tell it. And so Jules comes on and tells it, and she's just this like old grandmother type energy of just brilliant, strong, independent, you know what I mean? And she started talking about this idea of building City of Lights. And I've been hearing that in some of these Archangel Michael books and all of a sudden my friend pulled some tarot for me and she said I wasn't dreaming big enough, which is crazy because I dream fucking huge. And then all of a sudden, ever since then, I can't get it out of my head, dude, because now I got this new place, right? I'm in a new home and it's on a half acre, and I can start to learn to homestead and grow my own stuff and do all those things. And then it got me thinking, my 10-year plan is I want to set up retreat centers where people can leave their environment and go immerse themselves in their spiritual healing through different modalities and things that they choose. But then I started thinking past that. That's the steps to City of Lights, the cities of light, you know, like that, I think is why I am doing what I'm doing, and what I think my purpose is to bring this community together of star seeds. And that's why it's the Army of Energy, is because I think that we need to build these city of lights, and we can't rely on any regulatory agency, any governmental agency, any institution that's around right now. We have to do it ourselves. And like you said, we are just starting to get our wings to be able to spread out and fly. We haven't even left the cocoon yet, but I realized I emerged from that cocoon over the last 2 weeks. And that's what this blasting of the planet's been the last couple of days. It's been intense. I've been lethargic, tired of shit, but it's because it's getting ready. We're getting ready. Oh man, I'm excited, dude.
What a process, huh?
I'm exhausted.
You know what occurred to me as you were talking just then is it's kind of a Socratic question in a way, because I have some strong feelings about the way the answer to this question that I'm going to ask you occurs to me. But you said this about this retreat center. And by the way, I know retreat centers popping up all over the country. So here's the question. The question is, what is spiritual healing?
How about this? I'm going to hit you with a paradox. Spiritual practice is spiritual healing, and spiritual healing is spiritual practice. It's an infinity loop. And so as long as you're practicing spirituality, you're healing. And as long as you're moving from your head to your heart and staying as grounded in the present now moment as possible, you can get through anything. But something I don't think our community believes in yet is the fact that they think that they can just let their past go, and they don't have to face it. And I just don't believe it. And so our community wants, I call them the light workers, want to fly above the bullshit and kind of, I don't need to look at that. I don't need to do, you know what I mean? And that's fine. You can live your life however you want, but I'm a warrior, man. And for me, it's optimal growth. I want to get to as far as I can in each life, because I want to graduate Earth School. I want to graduate this, and I want to go on to whatever's next. And so for me and people like the ones that come into my aura now, like you, I have a feeling we go after that darkness. Like we go after those voids of light just to be able to put light on it. And
Right.
the more I do that, the more compassion I find.
Right.
Did you always have that, or did you always have a growth mindset, or did it kind of come as you mature?
I have no fucking idea.
I'm just here, bro. I just got here.
Right, exactly. This will be a brief blip. This is it. This will be a memory, you know. The Wujin Pian says, yesterday you were riding through the marketplace on horseback, and this morning already you are asleep in your coffin. Right? It says that 100 years is a spark sent forth from a stone. An entire lifetime is a bubble floating on the water, or some shit like that.
What's so incredible about that is time goes about 1/1000th the speed down here in form as it does in corporeal form. And I don't know about other dimensions and stuff like that, but basically like what our higher self or our oversoul deals with is 1/1000th the time that we deal with. So we're like, everything takes so long because we're so used to everything being instant and us being able to be where we are. And then you get to Florida and you hit a 3-minute light and you're just like, I'm dying at this 3-minute
Right.
light, because it's the way I look at it. And I've been able to change my perspective on those types of waiting. Because as when I was younger and more mature, it was like, I want to be where I want to be. And now it's more so I am where I am at all times, and it's fine, you know? But at the same time, it's like they designed our society to always have us kind of in between where we need to be, in a way it feels like. And now what's happening is we're kind of just like going back to the City of Lights. We're kind of like, we don't really like what you built over here, so we're just going to kind of go do it our own way. But yet a lot of us are still on our own path, and we're still learning and we're still growing. And you talked about how not really knowing, how you really got here. You're here. So do you feel that this life is, I believe there's like 3 reasons for life. I believe that you come here to teach, you come here to experience, and you come here for experience. And then you can make a combination of those things. Do you feel like you're here more as just a consumer of knowledge and wisdom to remember and then dispel it? Or do you feel like you're here to experience? Like you said, it's a blip to you. So what do you feel? What are you feeling for your purpose here at the
So I
start?
can, before even knowing the question, I know that the answer is going to be all 3 and neither of them. But what are the options again? I want to reflect on this.
To teach, to come to teach, to come to it, to have an experience, to like have a human experience, and then for the experience. So like experience points if you're like a RPG character, for me
Yeah,
to level up. So for me, I never really cared to have experiences. Even as a kid, my parents were like, "Hey, you want to go to Disney World?" And I was like, "No." I was always waiting to get to become an adult so that I can get my purpose and my mission and go. Like I've never really cared about having an experience. I've had them. Ooh, this is cool. This is fun.
Right.
But I'd rather be in my home meditating and learning about the universe. So for me, I think I'm here to gain experience and then also to teach, but not so much to have an experience.
That's an interesting thing to reflect on. I've never had the travel bug. Now, leaving my hometown of Columbus, Georgia, was the best thing I ever did. And I encourage people to do that, especially if they find that inclination within themselves. But yeah, I think it's all 3 because not because I think it's all 3. I think we are one consciousness, one thing, divinity in some manifestation, seeking to have a human experience. And it could be the experience of teaching.
True.
So in a way, I see those as being able to fold in. And I see also that we, maybe at different points in our lives, we do those kinds of things interchangeably, or we cycle between those. So that's I guess my answer. I don't necessarily identify with
You do a really good job of that, though. Like, you do a really good job of detachment. So let's talk about detachment, because it seems like you've spent a lot of your time in letting go of needing to have an opinion, needing to have a choice on the side of the fence. Like, I'm sure you do, but it's almost as in a way you've gotten to the point where even if you have an opinion, you don't express it because it's not necessary.
Having an
Because
opinion.
you're in that non-interventionism. So if I express my opinion to you, then I'm pushing my beliefs and thought processes onto you, and I might be interfering with your sojourn. So is that something that you think about when you express yourself?
You can't interfere with my sojourn. There's only the interaction with it, as my cat just did. You can't interfere with whatever's going on, and so the perception of freedom, of choice, of being able to move a three-dimensional object and steer its fourth dimensional pathway through a particular timeline by choosing which way that it goes, is a no more and no less. It's a figment of fifth dimensional perception. It's a figment of the fifth dimensional imagination, in the same way that the illusion that this is solid, right? So you zoom out, the soul is the 7+ dimensional. This is my kind of metaphysics. Yeah, you know, if you want to get technical, I guess this is where I do have stacking layers of an intellectual understanding lately, especially, that helps me steer.
We're still human. We're still having a human physical experience. We need that technical sometimes to be able to navigate this craziness.
That's what the mind is for.
Yeah.
That's what the mind is for. The mind is for
turn it back into a tool and not an addiction. That's the key.
Right. Yes, the mind is for storing and releasing information. And in fact, when you speak about addictions, the biggest addiction everybody has is the addiction to the idea that we're separate, that the ego is somehow, or at least your embeddedness in this vessel, which is just even three-dimensionally, that like just whatever's making this mouth move, that this is somehow infinite. I have this idea that or I said this the other day in our Telegram group, that the ego is searching for infinitude, but society would have it, and to a certain extent the very nature of the mind as it's embodied would have it, that the ego is searching for infinitude within finitude. So the mind is for the releasing and storing of information. It's for picking up my cat and wrestling with her so that she it's for moving creation around. It's the honor and the privilege of being able to move objects around in 3D space.
And what's so incredible about this experience is that this is the greatest piece of technology ever created in the entire universe. It's perfect. And we've done nothing but shit on it repeatedly and lessen it and lessen it and lessen it. And guess what? Now we have no choice but to embrace it, because this is what I'm realizing about making choices now. A lot of people are having this conversation lately about free will. Does free will exist now? Absolutely, free will exists. It's just gonna suck to make shitty decisions. Your body's ascending. We've already ascended. This consciousness that we are, all of us together, this Christ consciousness that we are, all of us together, is already ascended. It's these physical bodies that are ascending, but because we think we're these bodies and we don't have a relationship with them, with the ego personality, with the body elemental that we identify with. So I hate my body and I hate this and I feel this way and I'm this and I'm that. And in reality, you're none of those things. You're the observer consciousness, God fractal, having a human experience, trying to elevate you. So every time you find yourself in a challenging situation, it's just there to help you grow. But guess what? I'm in them right now and it sucks. Asshole. When you're a human still. So how do you separate sometimes being human with being a spirit? Or how do you then just surrender into being human in that moment and just allowing yourself to, I fucking hate this.
How do you wrestle with, I'm going to see if I can frame it. So how do we do the dance? How do we dance with the paradox of, you know, spiritually, the consciousness that there is the awareness, which starts with the awareness of synchronicity, which starts with the awareness of our embeddedness in something that's truly incredible, truly
Dude,
incredible.
you just blew my
Truly,
mind.
this
Synchronicity.
so the universe should not exist. Like by all statistical probabilities, the universe is impossible. Not only is the universe impossible, life is exceptionally impossible, like infinitely impossible.
There's no potential that it would happen on its own. That's like, there's,
Well, right. So there's actually, I'm going to modify that statement slightly because I think that this gets into quantum biology a bit, but this is, and I've mentioned this in season 1 of my podcast, Making the Medicine, and there is a way in which I reckon, there's a way in which the informational structure necessary for the formation of life was already happening to some extent within the molecular interactions going on in water. Basically, the interaction of water with itself, and all it needed was the right nitrogen compounds and these amino acids, these nucleic acids and things like that to come together, theoretically, to come together within the structure, within the quantum electrodynamic molecular structure of water. And when, so basically it's like already happening in virtual reality, right? So water is alive.
yes, it is. I
So
speak into my water.
huh?
I speak into my water and I embody my intentions through it.
That's appropriately animistic and powerful. And it's looking like, by the way, our watch party, we're going to have Intention Global is going to have a watch party on the 29th. We haven't decided a time yet, but there's going to be a Facebook event.
What's it going to be about?
Well, it's looking like we vote on the video that we want to see based on suggestions, and it's looking like it's going to be this documentary, The Mystery of Water. I've seen it once. It's one of the ones where they cover the way that the single droplets of water put out on a whatever it is, some kind of platform. The way that they crystallize depends on the person doing it, not right. So, which means that person is going to bring a certain field and inject that crystalline structure onto the water as they're doing it. Let me pause. Give me just a minute. I'll be right back.
I'm going to stare at your view.
There's something about these mountains, man.
They're beautiful, dude. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's something about these mountains.
That's where it's just, I need, my heart needs it. You know what I mean? My soul.
Well, we'll definitely have to talk when you decide to come on up here and say interview the other spiritual healing centers around here.
Is there a lot?
Man, this is Greater Asheville, pretty much. So yeah, there's a lot.
Good, because that's what I really want to do. Plus, also then meet, like, go around and then meet the people that I'm connecting with on Telegram and make it real. That's the thing I've realized over the last 3 years is you can do it as much as you want from behind your computer, but until you stand in front of somebody and share energy, it's just not that real. And I think when you share energy with somebody, like if me and you come together and then we go and have a conversation with 10 other people, man, it's just going to take off. Yeah.
Yeah. We need conferences.
That's something I've been planning. So I've been working for the biggest podcasting expo the last 4 years, learning the ins and outs of setting up conferences and expos. I've planned my own small events before. So that's something big that I see too is, it's a step-by-step process. Starts with a YouTube channel, and then all of a sudden it goes into a travel show, and then it goes into conferences, and then it goes into, you know what I mean? So I'm big into like baby steps, one day at a time, because I've tried to do it all at once, and it was a crazy experience.
Isn't it funny too how even as we're engaged in this spiritual process, so long as we're embodied, so long as like you spent however long you spent in the womb, took that first breath, now you're on this cycle. Now you're like, somebody they hit launch, they hit the go button. Now you're here. There will always be this awareness and this ego, but this awareness that's like consuming, and this just information. Because you were saying things like podcasting, conferences, travel shows, like it's interesting. It's like as things are changing, the nature and the vibration of what those things mean to people may or may not be all that different, but it's what they bring, so it's interesting to think about those things in those terms.
Well, this is how I look at it too, man, is not everyone's going to be to a point where they can hold two paradoxes in their hands and they can be like us, where we're just really detaching over and over again.
I kind of disagree. I actually disagree.
Well, I'm not saying everybody's not going to get there, but I'm saying it's going to take some time to get there. And so my whole thing's been is meeting people where they're at. You know what I mean? Being a leader, it's not always about trailblazing, and it's also about going behind and making sure that your whole tribe or whatever is coming up with you and it understands, and they're not left behind. I think about the story of Yeshua walking through the desert. He didn't leave people behind and things like that. Yeah, maybe some died in this and that, but he didn't leave anybody behind. And so the way I look at it is we're at the front because we know where we're going. We kind of know where we're going, or at least we feel we know where we're going. But we still have to make sure that all these people behind us are coming with us, because we are only a small spark of God in this form, in this tiny body. And we need everyone to come on board, to be with us, to give us their energy so that we can then help propel the new earth and anchor the new earth into the ground. And so what I'm saying is all this technology and all this matrix stuff that I've tried to let go of, and God keeps telling me, no, you need to hold on to that, because that is why you're here, so that you can then spread my message. Because the way I look at it is this: how do you start a movement without a megaphone? And that's what I'm building, is a fucking megaphone, man. Just as big and loud about love and light and togetherness as possible.
There you go.
Real, The authenticity is important, and I'm realizing that in our community there isn't a lot of authenticity, because people aren't going and looking at turning over the stones from their past that are causing them to make egoic choices and behavior decisions in the now. And that's all going into your past does, is it allows your ego to release. And so you're more your spirit.
Okay. I can tie in, I think, 4 of the hanging questions as my response to.
I'm going to start writing these down. This is a 5D conversation, by the way.
Absolutely. Well, the question is, can I remember what 4 questions I just thought of being answered by it? One is, what is spiritual healing?
Okay.
One was a question that I had surrounding the processing of one's shadow and trauma. The third one, I don't remember. And then the fourth one is Jesus. That wasn't his name.
Yeshua.
But
I wasn't even Yeshua. I'm probably saying it wrong. So
doesn't matter.
He doesn't care. His Sananda. I just say Sananda now because I know it pisses everybody off.
Sure, Sananda. Yeah.
Wait, you're telling me Jesus was Hindu? Yeah. He was a Hindu like master.
Well, where did he go for 18 years, And
oh, thank you. And puzzle piece. Dude. Well, I'm telling you, because I heard that he went to the Great Pyramids, he went into the halls of Amenti, he went all over.
Sure. I imagine, even though we're talking about the ancient world, you can go pretty damn far. Imagine that's 9 years there and 9 years back. And I know Christ would have, or Yeshua would have known. Okay, I've gone east enough. Not to mention the Indian community is extremely important in the Gospel of Thomas. Thomas is actually buried in India, right? Because the disciples were instructed to go out.
Dude, I'm pulled. I am pulled to go to India. Pulled.
Yes, India is. This is again name dropping. I have no shame about name dropping. I have no shame about anything. But the Gordon White and some of his interviews with Jeffrey Kripal, Dr. Jeffrey Kripal, are just phenomenal, and they wrestle with this idea of the specialness of India. And I've never been, but I know people who have, and you can almost see it on their faces and hear it in their voice when they talk about it. So
My friend and business partner, she's a mom of triplets, and she's Hindu and she's Indian, and she's been there a couple of times, and she's just the greatest human being I ever met on top of it. And then she's like, we're going to India, you have to go. And why I haven't gone yet is because I haven't surrendered enough of my ego. I am a very particular person. You know what I mean? I'm very like, I need bubbles and I need space and all that. So I have to surrender more of me because I want to be able to immerse myself in that experience and not be in my head about, oh, this is uncomfortable. And this.
Can I offer you something?
Go ahead, please.
Even the idea that you are a particular person is a story that you're telling yourself. So
you're true. No, absolutely. Absolutely, man. That's what I've been working on lately, even with my family, because a big thing with my family has always been money. It's a big trigger. And so now we're manifesting brilliance right now. We are all together. It's really beautiful. And I can hear it. I can hear it sometimes, that ego coming out and going, but it caught no. And then, but even us now, we're like, nope, you're right. We're done. And we stop talking about it. And we just, and that to me, this is the hard part for people in their healing process is, when do you stop processing all the time? When do you stop that hyper awareness when you're digging for, when do you stop digging for pay dirt until you hit water? You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to hit a pipe and then burst a pipe. So where I'm at is, where's that balance between working on yourself enough to let go of the things that are holding you back, and then also letting go of the programs too that run with that trauma once the trauma is no longer there. And it's kind of like, for me now, I just have to remind myself that's not my life anymore. That's not my reality anymore. Just like you said, I am not a particular person anymore. That's actually not who I am. But by me reinforcing that, by saying it, creating that narrative, now that I'm reinforcing that in me, and now my ego has something to hold on to. So maybe where do you see that?
Well, so yeah, I love it. We're like orbiting in, it's like spiritual healing, wrestling with trauma. What is Christ?
And even with you saying that, and I know what the answer is for me, I still have this ego left brain pull, that being human thing, person. What is Christ is so much bigger than just a person.
Right. So Christ means the anointed. Christ is a title. Christ is a title. Yeshua ben Joseph, Yeshua of Nazareth are names of a particular
possible personality.
Yeah, a username.
Yeah,
Connor Keys is a username
at Yeshua ben Joseph. Yeah, you gotta have a Twitter handle, right? So
yeah. I certainly hope so. Okay. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that we know as Jesus or as Yeshua ever existed in the first place. It does not matter. Christ is a title. Christ means the anointed one. Well, it's an anointing. Chrism is an anointing.
And Christos is your cerebral spinal fluid that comes up your spine and goes into your brain and allows you to see Christ.
I've been made. I've been made aware of some of those things about the biblical interpretations of neuroanatomy.
I love it. Oh man, it just like lights me on fire, man. It's brilliant. It is just.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Parting the Red Sea is is getting through the medulla oblongata, getting through that brain stem where it connects from your head to your spinal cord. You pass that through the Red Sea and it gets into, I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's why the Bible never made sense to me as a kid, because they weren't explaining it at all.
To what to what extent does it matter if that's what the New Testament was intended to mean when it was compiled, when it was written, and then subsequently compiled by these early church fathers like Athanasius? What does that matter either, right? So everything is new all the time, in the same way that we are these star blossoms coming into fruition and blossoming and attracting one another. Everything is always made anew, and I think that's actually that is Christ.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Yes. Every generation has a Christ. That's what they say. Every generation has a Messiah in a way. And in a way, what you're saying is it's every time we evolve as a humanity together. And you cannot tell us that we are not better as a human species than we were 2,000 years ago. You can't tell us that. Yeah, there's darkness and there's all this stuff and this and that, but look how far we've come in 2,000 years. And without that, we wouldn't have been here. So Christ never left, and Christ was always here from the beginning, because as long as there's a human being in form, Christ is in form.
Right. It's actually the one of the prayers of Saint Teresa of Avila. Christ has no eyes, no ears on earth now but mine. That being made anew, and that surrender, and the knowledge, the capital G knowledge, that the spirit of the absolute and utmost perfect love, in such a way that forgiveness and love are just English words that we have for this power within us. To know that is not only ever present, but it's actually part and parcel of the composition of the universe itself, and thereby the body of what we might think of as the body of God. That's Christ to me.
And what's so brilliant is the 4 questions you have, which are basically probably going to become the basis of this conversation. I mean, that's what we're talking about here, and we keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is building a relationship with Christ, which is just building a relationship with your inner self, so that you can process your shadow trauma, so you can spiritually heal through spiritual practice, so that you can know Christ, so that you can ascend. I'm
gonna offer something to that. The statement, so that you can, right? You can. So I consider myself a bit of a this is something I've been, embracing lately, is the extent to which I'm kind of a Jesus freak.
There's so much information and there's so much stimuli all the time that it's hard for us to stay focused on one thing. That's been my issue. That's been one of the things I've been working on in my life, is staying more focused on one thing and just doing that. And then, so it's our divided attention, right? Back in the day, all Yeshua did was study whatever it is that he was doing, right? That's all he did. He did his carpentry, he fished every once in a while, and he studied. So we call people Jesus freaks now, and I used to do the same thing when I would judge people, because I don't like Catholicism and I don't like Christianity. Human, right? I have an opinion of it. I have an experience with it, and I have all this and that. So from a human standpoint, I have my opinion. But from a spiritual standpoint, if you're trying to live a better life through a religion, you're a great human. And I'm sorry that people give anybody stuff for wanting to better themselves. But to me, a Jesus freak is someone who just devotes themselves to their passion and their study. And that's the whole point of this life. Do what you love and just do it all the time. And that is all God wants. It's the craziest thing that we can't comprehend for some reason with us. It's
Right. So, mhm. I I refer to for most of us the disdain with Christianity as a like a 10 or 20,000 foot view, based on kind of social liberal, whatever it happens to be, liberal intellectual trauma. Really, I recognize
it's
that.
all trauma. It's all
I
trauma.
recognize that. But I have a word for that, uh, and I've been there. Believe me. Um, I refer to that as throwing the holy baby out with the holy bathwater. And there is always for us in embracing that relation, because it's a cosmic relationship. We're just talking about God and what God does, which is love. And so I'm less interested in what the person Yeshua ben Joseph did for those 18 years. I'm less interested in um, his studies or whatever it happens to be, because the message is love. The message is that there is this eternal presence, and that actually, the 99.99999% empty space, according to classical physics, that the atom is, meaning, right, meaning that what we think of as solid, what we think of as mass, is not there. It means that it's pixie dust floating on an infinitely dense ocean uh, of pure energy. That's what that is. So that 99.999% is actually what we refer to as the ether, or the quantum flux foam, the whatever you want to call it, the 0 point, whatever. What the fuck is all that? What is that? What is that nation?
And I think what it is you said something really important, because even in today's time, we are all about the messenger and we really don't pay attention to the message. And again, we've been focused on the messenger this whole time, when even in his own words, he's like, I'm not God, but I'm the Son of God. I will show you God. I'll show you the way. Follow me and I'll show you the way to God. And everyone's like, you're God? He's like, no, I'm going to show you. You're God. He's like, no, damn it. Didn't work. It didn't work. And so now I think that's why here. So I have this theory. I truly believe it happened the way it happened, because I believe the last 2,000 years is going to be called the forgetting. I think we needed to forget the olden gods. I think we need to be broken of this monotheistic God, and that's why religion was as you can't deny that religion has been pretty horrible on this planet, man.
I have some very heretical ideas surrounding that, and I don't mind saying them if you're interested in going down that.
Yeah, I love to hear that, but let me finish this thought real quick. So, but the thing is, it's also been just as good as it has been bad. But here it is. I look at everything from that 100,000 foot view now, and I go, it gave us everything to put us to this point in time where for like a 20-year period, we almost pushed God out of our lives to go, this isn't fucking working, and come back to him on a whole nother level while we're awakening, right? And to me now, we're in the part of humanity called the humbling, the great humbling. And I think it's what's happening is as humans themselves are being humbled because we were so arrogant, because we thought we could be God. And in a way, we are God, but we're not God. We are together in form, together, all of us, a fraction of God, but we're not that God. But we are a fragment, a fractal. So we have all the qualities of that creator self. And so I think it's the balance. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, paradox, right?
Paradox. There you go. Paradox. Yeah.
Both those are true.
Yeah.
Simultaneously. Completely.
Yeah. And you're just like,
yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, so yeah, and when you reach this point,
you just stop thinking and just go here, and you're like, okay.
You stop. That's right. That's right. And so that actually brings me back to one of the things that, an emphasis that I sometimes hear on when it comes to like the necessity to process your trauma, or the idea that others in this life that in this shared reality that we're living. That they're not where we are because we're privileged enough to have this conversation. This is why I refer to myself as a Jesus freak in that way. But like I said, I mean, with the different, I don't know if I finished that thought, but with the different cosmology, metaphysics, theology, Christology, you can talk to a good old Jesus freak. And the idea is that it's right there. It's right there waiting for you. All of the love and whatever forgiveness, whatever guilt, whatever shame, whatever regret, whatever sorrow that you have is actually ready for the taking, right? So in other words, when it comes to that kind of conversation where it's the kind of thinking, I'll put it this way, the kind of mental, the kind of story that we tell ourselves that might put us in a position and in some kind of relative like stature or position in regards to someone else on the spiritual path, whether they're actively a spiritual, what we might call a spiritual person or not. Two people can always sit down and have that conversation, and they can, in the process of that conversation, shed all illusion until, and they could be a Muslim and a Christian, and they could sit and they could have that conversation and they could say, well, yeah. And once they talk about the truth, once the capital T truth walks into the room and starts resonating and starts vibrating through their mouths, eventually there's a point that we reach in conversation. And this is actually my passion when it comes to working with the clients that I work with, when I do spiritual mentorship or mystical mentorship with people, is getting to that conversation where there's nothing left to be said, right? The Tao that can be told is not the Tao. So there is, when truth walks in the room, big T truth, eventually, once you resonate, once you share in that idea, you just, whatever's in your hands, you just drop it and you say, yep, I agree. That's the truth.
I was like, when you told me, when you just hit me with that story before, you were like, that's a story. And I'm like, yep. You're like, no, I'm like, no, you don't need to even explain it. I just, yeah, it's just truth.
You are nothing other than perfect and infinite.
And the paradox is that in this form, we're perfectly imperfect. And because of our imperfections is what makes it perfect, because there's no such thing as perfect, because it's always expanding. And my perfectionism is actually something I worked on. That's been huge for me in my life, has been that perfectionism, that pursuit of perfection. And even though I know it's not possible to attain, I still pursue it, but I've changed my relationship with it. The pursuit of perfection for me is just keep going forward. It's when it becomes your end all be all. You know what I mean? It's when it becomes how you define yourself by. Well, what's super exciting about what you were just talking about, and what I was hit with when you said that, was we are the truth now. That's what our job is. That's what we've been anointed to do on this planet. That's why we're having this conversation. That's why we're not working and making all that money that we would normally do if we were doing that life. That's why we don't have all the kids that we would take care of and raise. That's why we're not raising the farm animals. That's why we don't have all these things, because we chose to surrender to something bigger than us, because in our life, we designed it to be this way. And this is what lights us on fire every moment of every day. And then when we walk into a room, we are the truth. And I realized something, because inherently I've always been a talker. I'm learning how to talk less now. At least the less I talk and the more I do and be the beacon, people just change around me now. It's crazy. They evolve. And it's because I'm not forcing, I'm not pulling, I'm magnetizing by just being just radiating that love light that Christ consciousness brought me. Christ consciousness brought you. And so talk a little bit about your mentorship, man. This is super important to me, because I've been trying to figure out a way to coach people, but I don't want to coach people. I don't want to be a psychologist or a counselor or any of that, but to mentor someone, to spiritually mentor someone on their path, tell me that isn't the most abundance you could bring to your heart. I could only imagine when you see someone get it, you see someone just their eyes like light up and they're just getting it and you're just like laying it on and you're like, we're connecting consciousness right now. You know, tell me about that. That's gonna be
Whatever that means for you is going to be something different than how it's manifested for me in my practice. Yes, I still do acupuncture and Chinese medicine and pulse electromagnetic field therapy and whatever with people. So I still do the pokey thing. But
the pokey thing.
the needles,
I know.
you know,
I know. I know. It's just it's. Let me just poke you. Let me just poke you in your meridians. Let me just get at your meridians.
Sure. Yeah.
Dude, I believe in all of that stuff, man. I've been getting healings. I've been getting Reiki through like the ether lately, and it's works amazing. My
Nice.
friend has this device called the Healy, which uses frequency healing over the over the airway. It's
What I do is similar to the Healy. That's frequency specific. I guess the Healy device is a pulse EMF device, and so what I do is I jokingly call it FSPT EMFT. So I call it's frequency specific pulse toroidal electromagnetic field therapy, and that's a joke. And sometimes
it totally it sounds like a marine. It sounds like a military acronym.
You're damn right it is. And so sometimes I'll throw an extra P in there just to make it more ridiculous, which is Pythagorean. But there's.
By the way, he discovered that theory. By the way, it was his.
I actually found
the pyramids were built with it everywhere, but it was his. It was his theory.
What
Pythagorean, the Pythagorean theorem? Maybe we call it the Pythagorean theorem. Oh, Pythagorean in Greek, he discovered it. It's like no.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. There you go. No, he was just a compiler and a Platonist and
vessel to bring that theory into.
Absolutely. He was also, I mean, by all accounts, not to speak ill of the long dead, but a dickhead.
Weren't all Greeks back then?
No, I don't know, but ecomythia is was the practice of if someone opened their mouth and spoke before their third year of sitting around the circle within the secret society, then they were subject to death. And if they spoke about the secret society outside of it, they were subject to death. There's a story of Pythagoras.
We were just getting murdered. I mean, how many? All right, so we assume we all lived 80-year lives, right? But there's no way we made it all these lives the whole way with our mouth. No fucking way. I wonder how many times I was tortured to death because I was scared of everything as a kid. I was scared of everything, man.
Put it this way, I have an alternative perspective on that. Is if you're interested as well, you're actually in those other lives, you're being tortured currently, right? Time is not linear.
I'll see like somebody messing with their nails and I get like, I can't. And so I know that somebody was.
Woo! Oh God. Oh, stop.
Your fingers, jazz hands.
Oh my God. Okay.
But no. Let's go with that because I have a theory. So before I got into all the spiritual stuff and the higher consciousness, I was pursuing Western medicine to help with my PTSD. And something I got into was accelerated resolution therapy, which uses rapid eye movement to take you out of your parasympathetic alerted state, out of fight or flight, so that you can digest the memories. And part of that was the movie theater and walking your younger self like across a bridge and tossing pictures out from your childhood. And it's really powerful. And then
excellent.
Sort of thinking about it because I was meditating at the time. I was like, could I do this on my own? So I get into a deep meditation. I get into a delta or a theta brain state. I think of a memory and I start to change it. My question to you is this, and this is my theory, is I call it shoring up timelines. Do you believe that you can send yourself, just like prayer, right? Do you believe you can send yourself in the past and in the future prayers and intentions that can help you in that time? So say that I have a memory of me that I go through HQQT, right? I go through that quantum hypnosis and I find out that I was being tortured. And I, in my memory, in my mind's eye, when I'm meditating and I change that program and I change that memory to where I save myself from that timeline, do you believe that's really happening? And do you believe you're shoring up your timelines? And do you believe that will help create an easier path forward, because you're taking all that energy that's stuck and moving it around for yourself to free up that energy flow?
Right. So I think that taking a like what might be a six-dimensional therapy and then trying to look at the sixth dimension from the third dimension or fourth as if time is linear is missing the point. So do I believe that it's really that those things are really happening? I don't know, and I think it's irrelevant. I think what you're talking about is what I call time travel medicine.
Okay.
So for me personally, and what I recommend with the people that I work with is something that takes place just through surrender and through, in an Epsom salt bath, with a shit ton of Epsom salt.